Welcome to Finding Optimum. It's nice to have you here. In this video, I wanted to give you some of the background on why we call this site Finding Optimum. First off, I love the words. I love the idea of finding. It is an active verb. It involves searching and discovering, looking and learning. I love the word optimum. Optimum is defined as the amount or degree of something that is most favorable to some end. This involves several wonderful ideas. The first is a direction, because if we have an end, we have a direction to get there. The second is the notion that things have an effect on that end. The third is that some of these effects are favorable and some things are more favorable than others. This leads us to a lot of opportunities. Improvement is possible if we have a direction. With those statements, there's a whole bunch to break down. Let's start with the notion of an end. It's very important, if we are to be able to find optimum, that we know where we are going. We have to have some place to arrive at, some goal to achieve, some end state to realize, some mission to accomplish. I think it is real and viable to have your own vision of your future and to create the reality of your own vision. We do have power to act, to bring us closer to our visions. I also think that it's a reality that the world or culture around us is altogether too happy to assign us a vision, a mission, a goal, a life. Classic example would be the need to find factory workers for my dog food factory. I know it's not going to be fun work, but I also know I need people who are responsible and capable and able to do it. There are some people that this style of work suits their needs, and I can find those people. But what if I run out of those people? Well, then I need to generate people like them. And if I work the education and the cultural expectations around them, I can achieve that. The important part of all of this is finding our mission. If that mission is working in a dog food factory, I want you to go do that. But I really want you to make sure that it's your mission. It's yours and that it's something that you have chosen so that you are acting upon the world and not being acted upon. Let's try to put this into some perspective with the story of my first garden. Many years ago, I moved from the desert climates of California to the steppe climate of Utah. And I realized that I had a lot of land in my backyard. I woke up early on a Saturday morning with this incredible vision and intense desire to feed my family out of my backyard garden. I had never done a successful garden before. I didn't know what I was thinking, but I got up and I told my wife, I did find my mission and it's right here. I said I wanted to feed our family out of the stuff we grow out of our backyard. Fortunately for us, we were both naive enough to think we could do it. So we started down the road. I decided that I needed to know what my family needed to eat to be able to live. I started looking up how many carbohydrates and protein and fat was required for the human diet to work appropriately in order to create genuine health. I started to learn some interesting things like I can't just grow beans and get all my protein from them. I'm going to have certain amino acids from other plants to complete my required protein. I began to realize that every food had different percentages of fats and protein and carbohydrate, and that the human body reacted to these differently. I also began to realize that fats and proteins and carbohydrates were not the only thing I was trying to grow. I needed to grow all the rest of the nutrients for my family so that we could maintain health. Vitamins and minerals that the human body needs to thrive needed to be available in the food we were growing. As all this was coming to me and I was learning these things, suddenly the whole idea seemed so overwhelming. There was too much to keep track of, and every new detail I learned led me to more details, and finally to the conclusion that the very premise of my dream was uninformed, unattainable, and well, just plain stupid. Why should I keep going down this path? I could not succeed. I would fail. The weight of all the other commitments in my life seemed to be a way out of the craziness. What was I thinking trying to start a garden? I remember thinking to myself, if I give up now, no one will ever have to know. They don't have to know I ever really started. I can just tell them it was a passing whim and I would feel justified. I don't have to feel the embarrassment of failure. Another moment I might be thinking, time to cut your losses. What are you thinking of trying to achieve with all this? Somehow I got a hold of a gardening book by John Jeavons, How to Grow More Vegetables in Less Space Than You Ever Thought Possible. And the ideas of that book stuck. Things like, I don't have to be perfect right now. I just need to move in the general direction of that perfect garden that's in my head. So I could do some things. I could derive an equation that would allow me to figure out how many of the different plants I needed to plant based on the macronutrients I was going to try and get from any particular poundage of beans or tomatoes or watermelons. And I was also able to find data that would show me how many pounds of any of these I could expect from so many square feet of the garden I was going to grow. I also learned that it really mattered what kind of ground I was planting my seeds in. It mattered what nutrients were available in the ground. It mattered what kind of water I watered with and how often I watered. It mattered how loose the soil was and the composition of the soil and how much carbon was in the soil and how much of the vitamins and minerals for the plants were available in soil. I learned that the bacteria in the soil were vital for plants and that just because a nutrient was in my soil did not mean it was available to the plants in my soil. There was a moment of inspiration when I was reading about a 19th century German scientist named Justus von Liebig. He formulated the law of the minimum, which states that if one of the essential plant nutrients is deficient, plant growth will be poor, even when all other essential nutrients are abundant. I will show you in just a minute. This became a guiding principle for a lot of things in my life. If we want things to happen in a way that fulfills our goals and helps us to achieve an end state close to our vision, we need to make sure that all of the right nutrients or tools and capital are available for us. But applying it to the garden right now, I could say that if I didn't give the plants enough nitrogen, they did not grow. I learned that plants need a lot of nitrogen and that often nitrogen is the limiting nutrient for plant growth. I also began to realize that if I gave the plants too much nitrogen, sometimes they just wanted to grow and they didn't want to set fruit or flower. So growing plants was not my only objective. I needed to find a mixture of soil nutrients and growing conditions that provided me a balance of excellent plant growth and excellent fruit setting. That first year, I also began to realize that further refinement of the balance of soil nutrients that were available to the plants could produce a more flavorful and nutrient-dense crop as well. I had learned several things. One, the garden I needed was bigger than the space I had allocated to grow it in. Number two, I didn't know enough about how plants generated nutrient-dense food, nor how to measure or create a metric around growing the food to give me good feedback when I was achieving my goal. Number three, I didn't have enough time assigned to gardening to actually make the garden as productive as I wanted it to be. The bottom line, I didn't know enough about growing plants to actually achieve the end result that year. But by the end of the year, my goal had changed. And now it stated, I want to grow the most nutrient-dense food in the most space-conservative way possible so I can produce as much of the calories that my family needs from the garden lot size that I am capable of taking care of. Let it suffice to say that this garden, that first garden, was in so many ways a huge failure for me. I was so far from achieving my goal. At the same time, this garden was one of my greatest successes. One of the greatest successes of my entire life. I grew an amazing garden that year that had more calories and nutrients and amazing flavors than I had ever experienced before in my life. I had experience in growing a garden. I was ready to improve for the next garden, and I had more realistic expectations all around. I had also begun the process of transforming all of the things around me into tools to help me achieve my gardening goal. As I alluded to earlier, I realized that there are many, many tools available to help us achieve our end state vision. Things like knowledge, experience, the living things around us, our own indomitable spirit, God, the culture of our personal, family, and community life, the inanimate things around us, the money and other financial assets we have. It has become a quest of mine to understand more about how these things interact and can work together for our good. This is the purpose of Finding Optimum. I want to help you refine and achieve your goals. I want to help you learn to manage the resources around you so that they can be tools to help you accomplish your mission. So join me as we go through this process. This video over here is going to go into more detail on how you can find your mission and start the road to achieve it. And this video over here goes into a lot of detail about how to organize your life and the things around you so that you can achieve a mission that you feel passionate about. So welcome aboard. Keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times and enjoy the next video while you start finding your optimum.